Good evening, everybody. It's Sunday. It's me, Comic Crack, here with another look at what I read this week. The book is still going strong. I got to be pushing 450. There's a few titles I haven't added to the book yet, so I'm pretty close to the 500 goal. Got about 50 more to go, give or take, and still got a bit of time. Definitely not as much reading this year as I've done in previous years, especially last year. I feel like last year I really went bonkers with the amount of books that I read. Um, Rasa and I had our Sunday chat. Let me just make sure this tripod's good. Rasa and I had our Sunday chat on my channel, so it was a couple hours. It was a little later than usual this week. We may look over the next few weeks. We may look at switching days. Um, Sunday is usually kind of the best as far as there's a lot of people that have time off to be able to kind of hang out with us on that day. But due to work and just kind of our schedules and things, we may do it Mondays or Tuesdays. We haven't quite decided yet. I have to see what's going on work wise this coming week. But we'll keep you posted, and you can always watch the chats back in the replay. Next time we will be on Rasa's channel, so if you're not subscribed to La Rasa, make sure that you go over there and subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified. We don't want to suffer the YouTube algorithm. So what did we read this week? I read a lot of shit this week, and I read a lot of actually pretty great stuff. It was one of those weeks where there was a lot of hits and not as many misses. Why don't we start with Icarus? This is from the Golden Age, 1986, from Aircel. I believe this one came out, yes, 1986. So this is written by Don Lanwet and illustrated by the one and only Dave Cooper. I've seen this book around before, and I've always known that it's Dave Cooper. It didn't really appeal to me. I must be in the right headspace because this really appealed to me when I found this in cheap bins. And this was a fun book, honestly. This was a pretty great read. I say the cheap bins, but what's going to happen eventually is, no offense, Nate, I'm going to forget which books I got from you and which books I found myself. So I'm actually, with this one, I'm unsure if this was a Nate book or if this was something that I found here locally. All that aside, this is early Dave Cooper. So he did a bunch of stuff for Aircel, Gun Fury being one of the other ones. Puke and Explode, was that an Aircel one, or was that when he switched companies already? We've looked at many Dave Cooper books over the years here on the channel. Um, I I've really grown to love his early style quite a bit, actually. There's something about kind of the line work, even in the buildings and things like that. I do feel like that's a pretty great texture, and his faces, his characters are all they're very much Dave Cooper, but there is still some you can tell people apart. It's not like everybody looks identical. They do have an unusual kind of makeup to them, pretty cartoony, even though there's some kind of pseudo violence in here. But this was a space crew that gets invaded by some space pirates. The captain of the ship um, ends up kind of melding together with the ship. He sort of, I guess, downloads his essence to the ship, which is what the whole series is based on. It's not much of a spoiler. Well, it's not a spoiler at all because they mention it right in the opening paragraph, and this is sort of the story that leads us to what is going to be the rest of the series. I don't know how many issues this went. I don't think it went too many, but it was actually pretty fun, man. And like I said, his art from this era has really, I've really grown to love it, honestly. Um, he's right up there as turning into one of my favorite artists. Now that I feel like I still need to do some more reading of his early work, but once I'm done that, I do need to start getting some of his later material, and digging into that stuff. So if you find this out there, I'd say give it a shot. If it's in a 50 cent or $1 bin, nothing mind blowing. Just some kind of good 80s comic fun sci-fi kind of adventure with some pretty decent fight scenes in it. So yeah, fun book, very enjoyable read. That was Icarus, book number 1. I'll put it up there. This definitely was a Nate book. This is Malinky Robot. Hello, Madison. This was one that I got from Nate in the stack of books that he sent. Sonny Liew is a name that I know. I'm not familiar with Sonny's comics at all. Was this a Xeric grant? Yeah, the Xeric Foundation. This is from 2002. Right off the bat, I love Sonny's artwork. I hate Sonny's lettering. In the chat this afternoon, Tat, sorry, I've forgotten his YouTube handle now. Tats Comics, maybe? Anyway, he was mentioning about how now that he's in his 50s, he likes to get the bigger books so he can read the dialogue and the word balloons better. I feel like that in this one. I really, really struggled with this a lot. So much so that I can't really tell you much about the story other than it just seems to be kind of a silly little tale of these two young, one is, I believe, a human and one is some sort of animal species, investigating a smell in the town that turns out to be this type of fish that gives off a horrific aroma, that then ends up getting eaten by one of the characters. I love the style though. This art is really beautiful. It feels like it's building up to like preliminaries for some sort of animated, and while it does absolutely feel unfinished, it doesn't feel unfinished in a way where it's sloppy. It still looks beautiful, I think, and it kind of retains a little bit of I often hear artists talking about the energy that they get in their sketches versus the finished artwork, where they feel it's tough to find a balance between that energy you get with the sketches when you kind of sit down to ink everything and polish everything. This retains a lot of that energy for sure. The characters have some real nice characteristics to them. Pretty fun book. Can't say much for the story, but it's more than enough for me to want to dig into more Sonny Liew. I haven't looked yet, but I'm sure I'll find something. Oh, thank you very much, Kat, for coming and taking a crunch and booking it out of here. So there you go. There's a Malinky Robot, Stinky Fish Blues. Cthulhu Hand Luke, how the hell are you, man? Nice to see you. Not much to say about You've Been Cancelled. Holy smokes, Cat. That was, you dropped a deuce. Oh, my love of God. This is, oh, Jesus, Murphy. This is You've Been Cancelled, number 4. I think this is the last book of this mini-series. Now that I think it's done, I'm not sure what I thought of the whole thing. It had a bit of an unusual end. I won't spoil anything. I don't know if I liked this miniseries or not. I guess it was fun throughout. I did like the art style. I just don't know about it. It wasn't anything that kind of blew me away, that's for sure. Like I said, I think this is the final issue. And if it is, that's a hell of an ending, which sort of puts a question mark on the whole thing. There was a weird relationship here that happens early on in the story. His kind of nemesis from this whole reality TV, You've Been Cancelled kind of world, goes on the hunt for our main character. And within kind of a page, they kind of call a truce pretty damn quickly to fight together. And he convinces this guy that, hey, they're using you as well too, and they're going to treat you just like the army. And it doesn't take much convincing for him to go, oh, okay, cool, I guess we're friends now. So that was it felt a little sloppy. Don't really know what I thought of that, but I won't go any farther than this. I'm glad I checked it out. Mad Cave, like I said before, I don't know too much about. I'm glad I jumped on this. I'm just not so sure how much I loved it. I didn't hate it. I kept picking it up after all, so I guess that says something. On the flip side of that, we also had Sacrificers #2, and this is another one where I won't show you too much, but I do want to show you some of the interiors. The Free Comic Book Day, Rasa and I talked about this. This was the first book we talked about in our chat this afternoon. The Free Comic Book Day version of this really caught my attention. I thought the art was beautiful. The story was intriguing. The first issue just kind of expanded on that a little bit more. But I think by the end of this second issue, I'm much more sold. I think I was going to pick this up kind of regardless. This issue really had to stink to high heaven, like a litter box full of cat shit, for me not to kind of continue with the series. I'm interested to try to stick with a Remender book. The last few I've kind of, Black Science I started getting, I ended up dropping it just because I dropped my whole list. Low was the same thing. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying either of those books, but I just never stuck with them. Seven to Eternity was the same thing. I started getting them and then I dropped off. I really want to stick with this one. I really want to give it a full chance and kind of go along on the ride with everybody else, kind of month to month. So this kind of convinced me that maybe there is something here. I'm curious where he's going to take it. I will say it wasn't a complete kind of shock, but it was a bit of a twist. You know, you're kind of led down a certain path, and yeah, we see that that's not necessarily the path. Rasa was talking about it this afternoon too, the way the humans' sacrifices were treated in this one. They're very much kind of animals and, you know, calling everybody fools. We get introduced to this other race of kind of these whale type creatures, these orca type creatures, and they're very religious, and they take their role as the sacrifice extremely seriously. They get praised and they're looked upon as gods themselves almost for doing this. So they go along well with walking to their death with all these other sacrifices who are still sort of coming to terms as to what's going to happen, whether that's they're angry or they're just kind of resolved and depressed about it or whatever, however they're managing to deal with it. Again, I won't go further than this one. We'll leave it right here. But I'm very excited about this series. I think this is going to be a fun read. One of those books that it'll be fun to read along with Rasa as well, too. Along with Kaya, which she managed to find the first 8 issues of. There's been 10 issues so far. So that'll be 2 that we can kind of read together to talk about every week, which I'm looking forward to. I'm going to try my best here. Paulo, forgive me. Felipe Andrade, I think is how you pronounce his name. This is, and him with Ram V. They did The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. This is their new series called Rare Flavors. There was an Ashcan version here that was kind of like what they did with Layla Starr recently, issue #1, where they just gave you the inks not colored. You can see some of the pencils underneath as well too. They did the same thing for this. It doesn't, unlike Layla Starr though, this doesn't reprint the entire first issue. It just gives you a little snapshot. This came out before issue #1. I didn't know that this book was coming out, or if I did, I didn't register the names on it. These 2 are easily going to become one of my favorite duos if they keep on the kind of path that they're on here. This is an amazing little premise for an issue number one. It's a really great teaser. Really unsure how to talk about it to some degree, other than we have our kind of this main character here, this guy here, who we are being led to believe is some sort of demon or god or something. We're not 100% sure yet. We're not even 100% sure, or at least I'm not 100% sure that he is kind of our main like villain, I guess, because there's been a mysterious bunch of murders that are going on in the town. So here's the colored version as I kind of keep talking. And he approaches this young guy here because he wants him to make a documentary about him and his world of being a foodie and a restaurateur and stuff. While this is also going on, as I said, there was this murder story that's going on here. Where are those two characters? There was a better shot of them earlier, I think. Yeah, these two guys right here. They're investigating these murders. We're also being led to believe that there may be some cannibalism involved here too, that these people that are showing up dead are being eaten. It's so much more than that, though. That is really not doing the best service to this story. Honestly, it's one that you just have to read to kind of get the whole story there, because there's a lot more going on. And I'm very, very happy with this first issue. Like it's beautiful stuff. It's really, really amazing. So I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this. So in the back of this ash can, we do get some character designs, some early character designs from Felipe, and even some pencil sketches and things as he's working out one of the main characters there. And this ash can was $2.99 American, I think. Yeah, $2.99 US. And then the book itself was $4.99. So story and extra bits of art, and then we just get the last 2 pages of advertisements. So it's thinner than a regular comic, but pretty well done. So this is the tasting menu is what they call this. So Rare Flavors, very excited about it. It is on the pull list. There's no way I'm missing out on that one. Layla Starr ended up being probably one of my favorite, well, not probably, it was one of my favorite reads from that year. Was that last year? Yeah, Cthulhu Hand Luke. It really is beautiful art. He's a hell of a creator. I need to check out anything else that he's done, really do some digging. One that kind of disappointed me a little bit. I'm a big Harry Nordlinger fan. I love his Vacuum Decay anthology. I love his stuff as well. This is Night Cruising that he put out through Floating World, or with Floating World Comics, I suppose. His style is here. I don't think his storytelling is here in this issue. I think this is just a one-shot. I don't believe this is a continuing. It doesn't, if it is continuing, it doesn't let you know that at all, that this is like issue number 1 or something. This feels kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of feels thin on story, and it just feels like this is just a snapshot of this kind of psycho dude's night, going out for the night, picking up prostitutes, dropping acid, buying some photos from a sketchy friend of his, and there's lots of shots of him driving. So it's got Nordlinger's style and the art. I do enjoy his art quite a bit, but I would hesitate to recommend this to somebody who was unfamiliar with his work. I would absolutely point them to Vacuum Decay without a moment's notice. As a matter of fact, I was talking to the comic shop owner today about Vacuum Decay, because we were talking about what it would take to get some, or how difficult it is rather, to get some of these small press and indie stuff that's going on right now when they don't go through previews and things, and how difficult that is for stores, and how much that sucks for a guy like me who doesn't want to pay $20 shipping for one comic book. So here's his buddy that he meets at the diner to buy these gruesome photos of women just arms and legs cut off and look like they've been in accidents and murdered and stuff. So that's kind of the story. So it didn't really, it just was what it was, and I don't think it brought me anywhere from beginning to end other than enjoying his art. So yeah, it's not a, this isn't a strong recommendation by any stretch. Hello, Damien. It's not a strong recommendation by any stretch. I'm glad that he's getting the exposure through Floating World, and I really hope that that gives him, I mean, you know, we even get a scene like this where he goes and kills this family, and the obligatory unzipping his pants while the wife is lying face down and he's turning into this wolf, or he has this wolf kind of image on him. So yeah, that's kind of what it was. I do hope that this brings him some notice by people from buying Floating World stuff. Vacuum Decay is where it's at. Night Cruising didn't really do much for me. This one, on the other hand, should we go to that one? Yeah, well, this is a good order. This was one of the strongest reads of the week. Like I said, it feels like there was a lot of good reads this week, but this was one I thoroughly enjoyed, so much so that I went to look online to see if this actually turned into a series. Unfortunately, it didn't. It was just the one issue. This was another book from our friend Nate, from SLG 2009, written by Dan Vado, illustrated by Drew Roche. This creative team apparently did a kind of highly sought after Disney Haunted Mansion anthology. Some Ben Templesmith kind of art style here. This was a fantastic read. I wish there was more of this. It treats kind of like the Winchester story as this sort of House of Mystery type of horror and horror book. With there's kind of two stories in here that do kind of tie together, and we have our sort of horror host here, this caretaker who's kind of always out in the yard smoking and doing some yard work, talking to the people that are coming to the house. When you try to get into this house, you can't actually get into it from the outside. The house will decide whether it lets you in or not. And in this case, this guy does get dragged in whether he likes it or not. So good. So good. I'm really on the hunt for this Haunted Mansion anthology. This was 2009. I want to say that Disney book, was it 2002 when I was looking at it, or was it 2012? I don't remember if it was, I'm guessing it was after this. I'm guessing it was 2012. Anyway, really great. I love the almost foggy look, especially when we're outside. Everything, because of this art, even interiors look like it too, but it really gives it this kind of misty, foggy kind of look, the way that this art is. I really dig it. Quite a fun read. I don't know how easy this one is to find, but this is another one to highlight if you come across this in the cheap bins. Another one that I wouldn't hesitate to grab. Beautiful stuff there. Yet another Nate. I don't remember if it was this issue. I think Nate sent me a different issue of this lycanthrope Leo from Kengo Kaji and Kenji Okamura. This is from Viz. I think there was 7 or 8 issues. I do have another issue. Maybe it's like issue 6 or something. I think it was that one that Nate sent me, and then I found this one locally by chance. I loved this book. I'm a big fan. I'm a big sucker for werewolf stories. This has that in spades, but it feels like it's a lot more than just werewolves. We're being told, this is 1994, by the way. We're being told that there's a whole group of humans that are part of this, not quite a tribe, this sort of race that starts to take on the form of animals the older they get. As they're reaching that age, though, they start to get the abilities of these animals as well. The art in this is gorgeous, as much as the faces still look very much like your usual manga faces. There's a different kind of rendering to this. Like if you take a look at that face there, especially, it's one that stands out. I love the shadow on the face from the window, but just the way he's drawn there, I think, is really, really nice. There's also a mix of kind of photographs, as you end up seeing in a fair amount of manga, to kind of quicken up the pace maybe a little bit, to pump these things out. There's a few times where you get that mix of drawing and photographs that are being manipulated. This is our main character's father here. It's another book I don't want to show you too much of. Well, but I do want to show you that panel. So minor spoilers coming. So if you really want to not have any spoilers from a book from 1994, just be warned. We find out that the father is part of this group that was tasked with hunting down this group of humans slash animals. He had gone and hunted a woman down and killed her, found that she had a baby. He then adopted that baby as his own son, which is our main character in here. He's now about to turn 18, and he's showing signs of transitioning and transforming. So he's called randomly by his old group saying, we know that you didn't take care of the problem. You need to take care of this now, or we're going to. So he brings his son out to the woods and kind of lays the whole story on him, and explains what's going to happen to him. There we go. We get some more kind of photos manipulated in the background there. Obviously, the news doesn't go over so well as he gets ready to drive a stake through his child. And this causes our main character to transform here. There we go. Yeah, there's a good shot there. Starts to transform there and puts his claw, slices his father's head open there, with a couple of different swipes at him there. So good. Really great story. A really great kind of first issue to set everything up. I'm on board. I love some of this manga that doesn't seem to get spoken about at all. And a company like Viz, they did so much of it. They put so much of it out. I feel like it's always worth a shot trying it. So that's another strong first issue. I don't know how I'm going to find the other ones, but I'll keep digging and see what happens. In the I never find Tundra books, I keep finding Tundra books. Another from the sketchbook series. This is the John Totlben's Fetal Brain Tango sketchbook. This was number 2 in the Tundra sketchbook series. The next one in line was the Michael Zulli issue, which he also references in this one. This was great. Totleben, perhaps best known as the former inker, penciler, and cover painter of Swamp Thing, worked in Miracle Man, worked on Taboo, etc. Here's a portrait of the artist with one of his muses. This is really, really nice. I dig this sketchbook series. I think I've got, 4 of them at this point now. This is great because we get like a lot of the good sketchbooks you're going to see, you get a lot of different tools and a lot of different samples of art. So from brush marker all the way to watercolors, pencil sketches, just plain ink. A real nice cross section, a real nice sampling of the stuff that he was doing in his sketchbook. He was talking about potentially doing some sketchbooks on his own as well too. I'm not sure if that ended up happening, or publishing sketchbooks on his own. I don't know if that ended up happening at all, but this was a really good showing from him in this one. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Yeah, here we go. Some of these here. I think it was this next page. Yeah, there we go. So there's watercolor on illustration board with some varnish. Damar varnish, I think is what that says. Pretty amazing piece there. Some more watercolor. Yeah, not much to say about this one. So watercolor on tissue paper and illustration board. One of my favorite pieces in the book. Really incredible stuff. Really beautiful style. Yeah, so there you go. Some Toddlebin stuff. And finally, for what I read this week, it's actually a hell of a stack when you see it laid out on a table in front of you. Finally, Long John Silver. This is book number 2. This is Javier Dorison, who is the writer of Animal Castle, and then Matthew Lofray. I do recognize the name. I may have said some of the stuff he drew last time, but I'm drawing a blank this time. Book 2, Neptune. This is Cinebook. I think this was 2011 that this was, the English version came out. 2011, 2008 from Dargo. The first book, I did enjoy it. By the end of it, I did enjoy it. I did find it a bit of a struggle to get into early on. This one kind of solidified, another one where it solidified my interest in this. This was a fantastic volume. We kind of start off with Long John Silver, kind of regaling the crew with stories and jokes and just kind of showing his lighter side and how easy it is for him to kind of bring people into his circle and gain his trust or gain their trust and friendship very quickly. The rest of it also shows you that you don't want to fuck with Long John Silver, because at the end of the day, he's out for himself. He's not looking out for anybody else, even though he pretends to. This was such a solid book and really shows kind of the backstabbing nature of these people who are trapped together on this ship. They have no escape. They have no way to escape. So you're really getting that dynamics. And because of kind of keeping my mind in with Animal Castle, there does feel to be some kind of political undertones to this too, or at least maybe that's my reading of it anyway. Who knows what's intentional and what's just kind of where your mind is at day to day. But I think there's only 4 books in this series. Cinebook does have the other 2. They said on their site that they said on their website that they do have them in stock. I may kind of see about doing an order from them eventually, have a good look at Cinebook's site and maybe make it worth my while and order a bunch of stuff. Rasa has said that they do offer free shipping within the UK, so she may look to order and maybe we combine our order or something. Hello, Gorvidal. How are you, man? So, like I mentioned last time we talked about this book, this is by no means intended as a Treasure Island sequel or a prequel or anything to do with that. They just loved the character of Long John Silver and wanted to do a book of their own with that character. So it's not to be taken in sort of the manner of this ties in with that story or anything like that. Yeah, it's great. I'm really looking forward to reading the other 2 books in this. And of course, that album kind of format doesn't hurt either, seeing things at this size. So great read. Really, really great. So that's it for the books that I read this week. I thought I'd kind of show you some things that I picked up today when I went to pick up my one comic from my pull list at 204 Comics. I couldn't resist to have a poke around in their 50-cent and dollar bins. Sometimes you find a book that you just can't leave behind. This was one of those. I have this series already, this Race of Scorpions. I'm sort of getting a stack of books here. When I find some good stuff from those cheap bins, I kind of pick them out, with the idea of maybe seeing eventually down the line trading comics with people, or giving books away to some people. I send Rasa some packages every once in a while, so there's a couple of books in this stack that are going to be going to her when the next issue of Canon comes through the mail. But this is one of those where it's going in that pile of kind of trade fodder, or eventually stuff for sale, especially if I can find the whole series. This was in a 50-cent bin, I think, so couldn't say no. Jack Frost from Amazing Comics. There was a few comics with this character. I think one also came out, Caliber, that I think was just Frost. Had about 2 or 3 issues. Yeah, it looked good. I figured, why not give it a shot? But there's Frost for you. I found a few more issues of Grendel Warchild. I was wrong. Tatman was asking me about, he was talking about Grendel in the chat this afternoon, and I was telling him that I'm reading some of the stuff, and that then someone else mentioned Warchild. It might have been Jack Yo mentioning Warchild. I'm now 1 issue away from having all 10 issues of Warchild. Turns out it is issue number 1 that I'm missing. I thought I had issue number 1 of this, but so that would make sense that that one might not be the easiest to find. I may have to resort to online for issue number 1, but I'm so glad that I found the close to the last few issues for myself anyway. I really want to dig in on this. It looks great. I love those. I love these. What is it? Bisley? Yeah, Bisley covers. Oh, this one's signed Wagner. So that's great. Again, in the world of Tundra books that I never seem to find, even though I keep finding them. This is Doghead from the one and only Al Columbia. My mind was blown that this was in a fucking dollar bin, man. So I will take it for $1 all day, every day. Hell, I'd even pay $2. I'm about halfway through this book. I'm really digging it. It's hard to get away from the Sienkiewicz kind of comparison, I guess, with this stuff, especially when he uses these different mediums as we get into the story. But his drawings are just incredible. The way these faces are contorted, and the subject matter of it. And I'm not sure what's going on with this painting, but it has such a unique look to it. It gives it this real eerie kind of quality to it. But I love all of these odd looking characters with their very expressive faces. Daryl D, how are you, man? So yeah, I'm almost done this one here. That first story was pretty great. And then we get our next one that seems to kind of be, I don't quite know what's going on with this one. It feels like it might need a reread, where the first one was kind of this almost voyeuristic, perverse little story. This one seems to be pretty heavy. Our main character here wants to kill himself, and he's just trying to figure out the best way to do it. And it's just kind of what he's observing throughout his time while he's contemplating his own death. He ends up looking outside, and there's a car accident, and everybody gathers around, and instead of worried about the guy who's kind of bleeding on the ground, they talk about the damage to the car. Someone's trying to get her to bring the car to his shop where he can fix it for a really good price. Another guy is saying, for that price, you can come to my place and buy yourself a new car, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, but like I said, there's a lot of kind of Sienkiewicz energy in this, with the blending of different kind of techniques. So that's a hell of a find. Yeah, I'm amazed that that was in a bin, but that's what happens with dollar bins. That's why you got to dig. A couple of issues of Appleseed. It's taking a long time to find some of this Eclipse stuff, especially some of this international. Appleseed is one of them. Book 2, Volume 4, and Book 3, Volume 1. I really hate that they do this kind of thing. It really makes it difficult to just kind of keep track of as you're going, where there's all these different books, and we'll see that in the next series of books that I got. But I'm excited. I'm that much closer to having all of this. I've never read Appleseed. It's one of those that's kind of held in pretty high regard, so I'm looking forward to eventually digging in on that. The one that I got here, though, that I found quite a lot of is the one that drives me the most nuts with that. This is Nausicaa of the Valley of Wind. Beautiful, beautiful movie. Amazing comic, the issues that I've read. So hard to find these single issues. Volume 1 does not say Volume 1 anywhere on it. It just has numbers. You got to kind of look on the spine for Part 1, Number 1, Part 1, Number 2, etc. Then we get Part 3, Number 3, and then we have Part 4. There's a series of Part 4, and then there's Part 5, and so it's a real pain in the ass. The other thing that happens with book 4 is we change from this kind of square bound where you're getting kind of more bang for your buck to kind of a regular floppy sized comic. But if you don't know Nausicaa, it's one of my favorite Miyazaki movies. I was really surprised when I eventually saw it, how good it was. Not that I would ever pass up any Miyazaki movies at all. We're big fans of Miyazaki in this house, but this one kind of surprised me with how good it is. And again, like, you end up seeing a lot of Moebius in Miyazaki stuff, even with some of his character designs and the clothing that they wear. They were fans of each other, Miyazaki and Moebius. I was watching something just recently, a sit-down talk with Moebius, where he was talking about them meeting and kind of eventually becoming friends. So much so that issue number 1 of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind has a poster, a Moebius poster in it. And what I didn't know is that Moebius's daughter is named Nausicaa. This was the first thing that he saw of Miyazaki's movies, and was kind of immediately taken with the style and the story and the world building. So we got a few of the books here. So Part 3, I'm getting much, much closer. I know that this has been collected in a gigantic couple of volume box set, but I don't know. I like this format. I want to read it in this format. I want to be able to sit with it comfortably as opposed to these big books, and kind of read it one story arc at a time. So this is, I think I've got the entire volume 4 set now. Some beautiful covers here too. It's number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. These were a couple of bucks a piece. I think $3 a piece. But again, it's not a book that I see at all when I'm out there. It's pretty hard to find the single issues. So especially of these later volumes, I don't think I've ever seen Part 4 or Part 5 out there when I've been hunting. So kind of great to knock most of those off the list right away. Part 5, number 2, and then Part 6, number 6. I think this is the final issue. There wasn't a Part 7. Well, it says to be continued here, so maybe there was 1 or 2 more issues in this final part before we reach the end there. So anyway, there's a bunch of Nausicaa. And the other thing that I was incredibly excited to find was a whole bunch of Firefly. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Surprisingly enough, some early issues. These were from the dollar bins, so I bought all of them. I ended up buying a double by accident, but that's okay. It'll just go on the pile. I've decided I've got to just start reading this this kind of main Firefly story arc from the beginning, or as near as the beginning as I can get anyway. I read these 4 issues today, and the only reason I didn't talk about them in the kind of main chat is you all know what I think of this. I love it. The art in this is really good. This early series, McDade is the artist's name. Dan McDade, Greg Pak doing the writing. The only thing that I have with these early books is that there's some of the characters, Jane especially, in the comic itself, Jane does not look like Jane, so much so that it took me a few pages once somebody said his name to realize who the character was. I just didn't recognize him. I thought maybe I'd missed something from the first 5 issues. Turns out it was supposed to be Jane. He doesn't even look like he does here on the cover. He looks quite a bit different. So it really kind of threw me. But once I figured it out, it was no problem because honestly, such a good story, such a good book. I got to watch the show again. I also got some of the later issues as well, 20, 21, 22, and then this is the one that I already have, number 30, so that'll go in the pile of stuff to trade away. But yeah, I'm really hoping we have our big convention coming up soon. End of the month, I think it's Halloween weekend. So I'm hoping that we're gonna have some. Oh, this is a different artist in this one. Daniel Bayliss, is that who it is? Illustrated by Daniel Bayliss. Okay, so different artist for this series now, or for these issues anyway. I'm hoping that I can find some more of these on the cheap instead of paying cover price for everything. Jonesing to read more of this. And finally, for tonight, I have to do a shout out for a Winnipeg creator who published not one but 2 magazine-size comics that they were $10 a piece. I didn't pick these up today. I picked these up last week. I couldn't resist though. Legend of the Goblin's Eye. It's magazine size. Toonstock World Press is the name of the company, and the creator, F. David Howell, writer, pencils, inks, colors, and letters. It really has that 80s kind of vibe to it. Once he'd posted just this cover on in one of the Winnipeg comic groups, and I couldn't resist. It doesn't resonate as much when I open up the book, but it still has that kind of 80s quality that I do love. This is clearly a guy who just wanted to make a comic. So I'm super excited to try to support some local artists here for sure. So I'm very, very curious about these ones. I'm guessing it'll be kind of the fantasy D&D adventure type of thing, but it has those rough edges that I just love about some self-published stuff. I think from when he was talking online that this is the first comics work that he's ever done. I don't think he's done anything before this. I could be wrong about that. My apologies if you end up watching this, David, and that's wrong. But yeah, it looks intriguing for sure. There's a new shop that opened in town too, which I haven't checked out yet, down Corridon. They apparently specialize in more indie and small press publications. They even had some books on their Instagram that I've seen at places like Domino Comics online. So I have yet to check it out. They don't have a huge catalog yet, but like available in the store. But I'm hoping to get down there within the next couple of weeks and at least meet the guy who started the business and kind of have a chat to see how I can help, because I'd love to kind of get some of those books here in town. Maybe it's contacting Austin or individually contacting some people. He was carrying some Reptile House stuff. He was, like I said, some more stuff that I'd seen on the Domino Comics website. I don't know if that's who he went to get some stuff or if he went right to the creators themselves. But yeah, it's exciting for me to have what is hopefully a burgeoning group of people that want to get more of that type of material here in town. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much, everybody. It was good to see you, Gore Vidal, Daryl D, Sleepy Reader, Cthulhu Han Luke. Thank you very much for hanging out. And like I said, next week we might not be around on Sunday. Look for us on Monday or Tuesday over on Ross's channel. I'm sure that she'll post a notice before the chat. Have a good week, everybody. We'll talk to you.